Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. So, when you arrive, just let me know that you're here. You can say good afternoon in the chat, and if you can hear me properly. So, let me know when you get here. Good afternoon. I'm just waiting for you all to come on. Hi, good afternoon. Okay, so let me know when you all are here. Today we're going to be looking at the case studies on the factors that influence the location of industries in the Caribbean. So we're going to be looking at the primary industry, fishing in Belize and forestry in Guyana. We also have petroleum, oil and natural gas in Trinidad and Tobago. And we should also look at tourism. With respect to secondary industry, you usually have to look at food processing or the garment industry and compare that with Hong Kong or Singapore, right? So we'll try to look at those today. So let me give you all some time to come in. If you're here, you can just say good afternoon. Hi, Joel. Hi. I think it's the first time I've seen you here. Good afternoon. Which school do you attend or which party country you from? Hi, Takia. How are you today? So, guys, I had some problem with my live stream the last day, and actually, that was my last live stream for the month. I could only have three of them for the month on that particular platform, which is called Be Live. But Dre Dog was telling me about Streamlabs, which I think should allow me to have unlimited streaming. So the problem there is that I don't know how to operate Streamlabs. Okay, Waterloo High, nice, nice. Hi, Kimberly, right? So I am not too sure how to operate Streamlabs. I'm not sure if anybody else is familiar with Streamlabs, but I am basically at the end of my live sessions on the live for the month. So I have to wait till July start to be able to share the screen. But we're gonna make it work nevertheless. So let's I think we can give people 2 more minutes and then we can start. right? So I don't know if Dre Dog is here yet, but he was the one that was telling me about Streamline Labs, and I guess you'll have to give me a tutorial on that because yo, it was so confusing compared to Be Live that I use. Be Live is so easy, so much easier. Okay, so let's when it's 10 past we'll start, right? I'm sorry that I'm unable to share the PowerPoint. What I will do, I will put it up on my website and I can probably share some links that is that would be important to use. Hi Faith, nice to see you. I see you're here early today. I know you was here a bit late yesterday. I'm not too sure if you caught on all that we did. So let us start. So we're looking at the fishing industry in Belize because industries in the Caribbean is on the broad topics for the paper too. So this is definitely gonna come. You're gonna be looking at either fishing in Belize or forestry in Guyana. So before we go, tell me, what do you all know about Guyana? Any fun facts about Guyana? Any fun facts about Belize? They are both very unique Caribbean. Well, we consider them part of CARICOM, although they are not directly a Caribbean island because they're not in the they are not an island. They are on continents, right? We still consider them part of the Caribbean because they border the Caribbean Sea, and that is one aspect. And they are also part of CARICOM. So, what are some interesting facts about Guyana or Belize? And these interesting facts will help you in the exam. Anybody, nobody knows anything interesting about Guyana or Belize? All right. So, okay, 84% of the country is covered by forest. Which country is that? Is that Belize or is that Guyana? Because both of them have a lot of forest, right? Both of them, both countries have a lot of forests. Guyana, very good. So Guyana, over 80% of Guyana is covered by forests, right? So Belize, anything about Belize? So I think I mentioned last day that the largest barrier reef in the Western Hemisphere is located off the coast of Belize, right? And Belize is made up of this barrier reef, and they also have atolls. So when you study coral reefs, you would have heard about barrier reefs, fringing reefs, and atolls. So important, Guyana, sorry, Belize is home to the largest barrier reef in the Western Hemisphere and the second largest reef in the world. So the first largest reef is found in Australia, right? And I actually did my master's in Belize. I studied fishes. I looked at herbivorous fishes like the acanthurids and parrot fishes that maintain reef health. So, because Belize has the largest barrier reef, it makes it a quite interesting country for the fishing industry, right? So, if it is the home of the barrier reef, it means that it hosts a lot of marine life, right? So, you have not just fish, but you have other fisheries. When we say fisheries, what are we referring to? So fish is one part of the fisheries industries. What else will comprise of the fishing, well, fisheries? When we say fisheries, what else are we talking about? Anybody? Okay, so I don't like to feel like I'm speaking to the screen. I would love to see your comments. Remember, I said there's no right or wrong contribution, right? So, what do you think is fisheries? Okay, so fisheries will comprise of other marine life. So when we talk about crustaceans, we talk about things like conch or shrimp or oysters. All of those comprise of the fisheries industry. So Belize, right? Although the fishing industry is very dominant, it is not only made up of fish, right? It is also made up of the fisheries industries. So Tikia is asking, what about packaging and distribution of fish products? Right. So they also export a lot of the 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 fish that they catch in Belize. So a lot of it is exported as well. So we know that the fisheries industries make up 13% of Belizean exports. So in terms of exports, right, Belize export 13%. You all understand that? So 13% Belize export in terms of their fisheries industry, right? So we're talking about the when we're looking at Belize and we're studying the topic of the fishing industry, you also have to look at it in terms of the factors. So when we look at location, that is why we have to remember that it is the home of the largest barrier reef in the world that makes it so attractive for fishing, right? Also, another important thing about Belize is that the barrier reef, right, contributes to the economy, not just in terms of fisheries, but also in tourism, right? Tourism is also another important part. So Belize has fringing reefs, and it also has three offshore atolls off of that main barrier reef. So you have this long expanse that is called the barrier reef, right? But there are also atolls. And atolls are, of course, those semicircular reefs that are formed, right? How long is the barrier reef? Anybody know how long is the barrier reef? Anybody have an idea of how long is the barrier reef? How long is the barrier reef? No one knows how long is the barrier reef. So the barrier reef is 280 kilometers long, right? So not 7 square kilometers, Faith, it is actually 280 kilometers long, right? So it means that it is very, very long, right? It is very long. And because it is so long, right, it provides fishing grounds, which makes it ideal for the fishing industry. So, in terms of location, that is the very important part that you need to remember, right? So, you have the factors that affect the location, and some of the factors are physical factors like productive fishing grounds. It is nutrient rich. You have mangroves and seagrasses. Anybody know what is seagrasses? Does anybody know what is seagrasses? You ever heard of the term seagrasses before? No, seagrasses. So in Trinidad and Tobago, down Caranad side in the west, there's a bay called Williams Bay, right, in Caranaj. And sometimes you go to the sea and you see like there's some it's actually grass, like they short, not very tall, and you would see them under the water, and sometimes it brush under your feet, and you feel like if it is something that touches your feet. Or you never heard of it, so you can probably YouTube it fair to see what it actually looks like, right? So seagrasses and mangroves provide breeding grounds for the fishing industry in Belize, right? Also remember they comprise of the barrier reefs, which makes it an ideal habitat for fish and crustacean. And of course, because it is located in a reef, it is very sheltered, which makes it easy for fishes to go and, of course, reproduce, and they feel safe in this coral reef environment because they are not preyed on by their predators. Everybody understand that? Okay, so then you have human factors. Some of the human factors that influence the fishing industry in Belize is that they have formed what they call cooperatives. And what are cooperatives? Anybody ever heard the term cooperatives? I hope you all are paying attention because this is important. What are cooperatives? You all ever heard of the term cooperatives before? What are cooperatives? Anybody knows? So cooperatives are like community organizations. So if you ever been to a fishing community in Trinidad and Tobago, let us talk about like Down Labray, you have fishers, fishermen. Down Caranage, you have fishermen. Down Mayaro, you have fishermen there, or fisher folks, we call them. And they come together and they form a cooperative. What the cooperative does is that sometimes they buy over fish from the fishermen, or they themselves fish, and they actually, some of them are responsible for the export and for also selling of the fish. And what they do is that they pool together their resources. So if they need money to upgrade the facilities and all of that, they all pool their resources together. Everybody understand that? Okay, good. So those are cooperators. Very good to you, Kia. They deal with the management of the fishing industry in their community, not on a whole, but in their community or their group, right? So another human factor that influence the location, right? It's nearby markets, so they usually find a market to sell their produce to, and of course, ports, right? So in Belize, there are five government corporations, and these corporations, right, they get the help of the government, and because government is involved, they have strict regulations, and they have a quota system for each. So each cooperative will receive a quota, meaning a quota of fish, because remember, they want to ensure that there is fair trade. And of course, they don't want to have a problem of overfishing or over exploitation of the fishing industry. So they put a quota, and what a quota is basically setting a limit on the amount of fish that they receive. Everybody understand that? So these corporations, they usually buy the fish from the traditional fishermen, and then the corporation is responsible for exporting the fish. Everybody understand that? And where do you think the fish from Belize is exported to? Anybody have an idea? Where do you think fish from Belize is exported to? What are the markets? Because remember, you have to actually know what are the markets. So you definitely need to know what are the markets. The USA, very good. So you have USA is one market. Yes, they would export lobster and conch. Very good. But what are the markets that they export to? So USA is one market. Anybody know any other markets? This is on your exam, so you have to remember. So the market that they export to would be USA, Europe, and Japan. So make note of this: USA, Japan, and Europe, right? And in total, there's about 2,000. The 2,000 fishermen, and Belize City, which is the old capital of Belize, right? They are actually the the center of the fishing industry, or the main fishing center. You get that? All right. So, all right. So that is the actual location responsible for the fishing industry, right? That is location. So the first factor is actually location. And then we also did market, because we spoke about the different markets that they export to. So we talk about the corporations being in control of buying the fish and then selling the fish over to the markets abroad. And the markets we said are USA, the UK, right? USA, the UK, and Japan, right? So we know that the communities have a very important role to play as well, right? So that is basically fishing, right? And we spoke about in terms of what they actually export. So they also export not just fish. So we talk about fisheries in terms of lobster, conch, and shrimp make up a big portion of what is sold, right? And then, of course, in Belize, they also practice what is called aqua aqua farming, right? Aquaculture, sorry, and they actually farm shrimp. So shrimp is actually another thing that they do in Belize. So they shrimp farm, and this is not actually aquaculture, right? Where they practice shrimp farming is it is more man-made. It is not like they go out and they go and catch shrimp. So aquaculture of shrimp in Belize is another thing that they do in terms of when we're talking about the fishery industry. So aquaculture, yes, aquaculture of shrimp. So remember that. So the shrimp farm in Belize, what they have done, they actually have set aside an area of the country, and the aquaculture in Belize, in terms of shrimp farming, they have five large shrimp farms. And the shrimp farm is a mixture of salt water very close to the shoreline, and it is artificial, because remember aquaculture it's not in open sea. When we are doing, or when we talk about aquaculture, it is actually in a controlled environment. So Belize also practice aquaculture, and they have five large shrimp farms, which is responsible for producing income. So they do fish and they do shrimp. Everybody understand that? But the shrimp industry, again, it's just to make note that you understand what I'm saying. It is in a controlled environment. It's man-made, right? It's not in open water. Everybody understand that? Are you all following me? You all there? All right. So where are these shrimp farms located in Belize? They are also located in Belize City, as we talk about Belize City being the main fishing industry, and an area of Belize called Placencia. Right? Shrimp farming in Belize is responsible for $50 million US dollars annually. Right? And it is the second largest export earner in Belize. So things you need to know about shrimp farming in Belize is that there are six large shrimp farms in Belize, right? Five large shrimp farms. It is in a controlled environment, and it is very successful, meaning it is the second largest export earner in Belize, and it earns 50 million US in revenue for the country. Right? What is a negative impact of the shrimp farming is that it becomes a nutrient rich environment, meaning when, because of the controlled environment it is, and of course nutrients being added to this water, sometimes you could have the process of eutrophication. And what do we call you? What is eutrophication? Anybody knows what is eutrophication? What is eutrophication? You ever heard that term before? Eutrophication. The growing of algae. Yes, algae on the surface of the water. Very good. So it causes algal blooms. That is what it really causes, algal bloom. And of course, if you have algal bloom, no sunlight will be able to get through that water, right? So that is a negative impact. So what are some challenges now? We have to look at challenges of the fishing industries, or challenges that face the fishing industry in Belize. So when we talk about the shrimp farming, that is strength in Belize. So accompanying the fishing industry, one of the major trends in Belize is the development of the shrimp farming, which is aquaculture in Belize. Right? Now we look at the challenges. What are some of the challenges with that fishing industry? Anybody know? What are some challenges the fishing industry face? Overfishing. Very good. So you have overfishing. Yes, yes, Takia and Faith, right? So you have an issue of overfishing. Anytime you hear the fishing industry, I am not too sure if anybody saw the video Seaspiracy. Anybody saw the documentary Seaspiracy that spoke about the unhidden truth of the fishing industry, where they showed that, some of these more developed countries like in Japan and in these areas where there's a demand for like tuna and salmon and these exotic fishes, there is a heavy demand placed on the fish industry. So if you haven't seen Seaspiracy yet, it's something I suggest that you watch. It's a really good documentary. So you have overfishing, right? And overfishing involves catching and killing of young fish as well. So what happens is that sometimes when we fish, the fishing industry, they utilizes methods like trawling. Anybody ever heard the term trawling? What is trawling? When they utilize methods like trawling, what happens? When trawlers, what are trawling? What is trawling? Anybody know what is trawling? Yes, so really and truly, when you have trawling, it takes up everything. It doesn't sort out which fish are adults and which fish are juvenile. So basically, what trawling is a boat that has this huge net at the back and it scrapes the seafloor, or it goes through the sea with this huge net and it picks up everything. So you have babies, you have adults, and we call baby fishes juvenile. So it really destroy um, the fish grounds or breeding grounds of fish, right? So with overfishing, you also have them taking adults and juveniles, and this reduces the fish stocks that you have, and it is an unsustainable practice. Then you have pollution. So pollution comes from, of course, again, you have pollution from sewage waste or pollution from oil. So in Trinidad and Tobago, we had the problem of oil, and in Belize as well, they have the problem of sewage waste, and sewage waste tend to contaminate or kill fish. Belize also have um, what we call a thriving cruise industry, and the cruise ship industry obviously competes, with the fishing industry, and sometimes they can destroy the fishing breeding grounds, especially if it's used for tourism, right? Also, mangroves which provide breeding grounds for fishes, are destroyed for or to facilitate tourism and residential development, right? So tourism, and we all know this, right? Tourism competes with the fishing industry, and it's the same in Belize. Good afternoon, Calicia. Nice to have you here. We're discussing the fishing industry in Belize, right? So we talked about mangroves, and so besides mangrove, we talk about mangroves and seagrasses being the main feeding ground, and sometimes these areas can be destroyed for tourism and residential development, right? Tourism in terms of building hotels. Another challenge that the fishing industry has, or another challenge that it faces, is that it faces global competition. Remember, Belize is not the only um, Caribbean country or only country that is actually exporting fish. So competition from um, big fishing in other fishing countries, right? Like in Japan, they compete with, of course, Belize because they have more high tech equipment. Another challenge is there is a reduction of labor or employment in the fishing industry, just like agriculture, because we know that younger people now, they're not into, that type of jobs, right? They don't want to be a fisherman, or they don't want to spend long hours out at sea fishing, because fishing is a very tedious job, especially if you was in brought up in a fishing community. Everybody know that. Anybody here lives near the coast? Anybody here um, lives near the coast or comes from a fishing community and have experience fishing? Anybody? All right. And then some of the fisheries that they have available are not they are not popular, so they are not fished, right? They are under use. So what are some solutions? So for your exam, they're going to ask you about factors, they're going to ask you about trends, they're going to ask you about challenges, and they're going to ask you about solutions. What are some solutions that you can have for these problems? Oh, another challenge is that they need data. So the lack of data, meaning what is data? Anybody have an idea what is data? The lack of data. What is data? Data driven management is needed for the fishing industry, meaning they need to make informed decisions, right? They need to make decisions that is backed up by data. So they need to see how much overfishing is taking place. What are the species of fish that is being probably overexploited? So the lack of data to manage the fishing industry is also a problem that they face, right? So, what are some of the solutions? So the solutions to these challenges would be to maintain a more sustainable fishing industry, right? A more sustainable fishing industry. How do you accomplish a more sustainable fishing industry? Anybody? Okay, so Takia is saying overfishing. One thing that we can do is have fishing season. Very good. We should implement seasons for different type of species of fish and different fisheries. So, for example, in Belize, the conch, um, shrimp, lobster, groupers is a type of fish, right? In Belize, there are particular laws and seasons that they can actually go out and get these fish. So it is like the hunting season in Trinidad. It is not open right through. They put a time, right, a particular time of the year in which you can fish. For you can get conch, you can get particular fishes like groupers, you can get lobster at particular time, and that will allow for, of course, the fish to replenish. Very, very good point, Ikia. And Antilia is saying limit the quantity. Again, putting forth quotas on how much they can fish, right? To put in a quota. So there is a close season in Belize for the conch season, and that is in July to September, and from February to June. And that is when most of the breeding takes place. So they allow the breeding to take place, and then, of course, when those seasons have passed and they have bred, then they will open it up for some sort of breeding to take place again, right? So also in the fisheries industries in Belize, what they have done is that young lobster and conch, they have to reach a certain size. And if they are not to a particular size, they do not use them. So they do not use um, shrimp and conch on the particular size. It must be a particular size, right? So having a limit on the size of the fish as well is very important. So it will discourage the use of trawling, and it will discourage the use of um, taking juveniles from the breeding environment. Everybody understands, so it gives them time to mature. The fish, the lobster, the conch, right? So conch shell must be 7 inches. Everybody know what is conch, right? Everybody know what is conch? Y'all know in Marshall video conch shell, there's this big conch that they were blowing in. That is actually what people eat. The inside of it is a nice meat, right? And it's very exotic and people love that. So they also set annual quotas for the corporations, the cooperatives. So maintaining a sustainable fishing industry means that you have to implement seasons for fishing, you have to implement quotas. So the each of the corporations that they have, remember they have five, they have a quota on how much of these fish resources they can actually um, get at one time during the season, right? So they put an annual quota on them. Um, they also ban scuba diving for conch and lobster, right? So there is no diving for fish, for lobster and conch in Belize, right? It's a law that you're not supposed to dive in water over 15 meters deep, and this will help to prevent the overfishing again, right? Groupers, and if you know what are groupers, groupers are very big fishes. They grow very big, and it's a really nice meat. Groupers is also prohibited in most places in Belize because they are overfished, and of course they have limited fish stock. So they have prohibited um, the fishing of groupers, and government is also trying to make individuals eat or encourage the utilizing or eating of certain fish species. So, like the lionfish that has become an invasive species in the Caribbean that has been taken over the breeding grounds of the Caribbean, right? They are now trying to get people to eat lionfish. Everybody know what is lionfish, right? So lionfish is a pretty fish. It looks like a lion. There are stripes on them, and they're trying for people now to eat um, these lionfish. This lionfish is very invasive. It eats everything in the breeding ground. And also what they have done in Belize is they have established what we call management reserves. Management reserves are different areas within the Great Barrier Reef where there are no take zones. So, a no take zone means that there's absolutely no fishing in that area, right? No fishing or no taking of fish in the area. There are also areas that would be regulated by season, right? And it will also be regulated by a particular time of the year in which they are able to fish in those areas. So they have established management reserves. Everybody think if they are given a case study on the fishing industry in Belize, they would be able to do that. Was that comprehensive enough in terms of revision? Are you all okay with that? Okay, very good, Tikia. I'm glad that it was helpful. And well, it's 5 to 6 now. So I think I will end this stream here. And tomorrow we will go on with Guyana, right? So we will go on with the Guyana. For your exam, I think this would be the most difficult section along with map week. So I'm just trying to finish up these case studies. Um, and we'll do Guyana tomorrow. Faith, I will try to continue to keep up with doing the videos throughout the year as well. So we don't have so much to do right before the exam because I now start the channel this year. You understand? So you can look out for videos, and during the holidays when I have some time I would do pre-recording, which would also be easier than the lives. Okay, so it was nice to have you all again. Make sure you share the stream, the live with your friends. Make sure you subscribe. If you didn't subscribe to the channel, subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss when I go live. And also like the video, share the video, and tell others in your classes that may need the help. So we will continue tomorrow, please God, at 5 again on Guyana. Is that okay? Everybody's okay with that? So tomorrow we will look at Guyana. Yeah? Okay, bye. And I think after tomorrow I'll be able to get some free live streaming again. Okay, bye guys.